What we are facing, the one source has our back. We simply have to trust in the flow, knowing all is well. You know, when we start thinking about habits, there are things that we have that are habits that are hard to break. And sometimes we have a body knowledge, and it's telling me to sit down, so fine, I'll take the direction and sit down. Sometimes we have a body memory around a certain way that we are. I know when I was in college, I used to do African dance. And it's really funny when I would see myself, even no matter what dance I do, I look like I'm doing some version of some sort of Congolese something or other, right? And I have this theory about everyone has like a favorite era that they're from. So I have a friend that came up and he was big when disco came. So no matter how many hip hop moves I would teach him, he would look like he was doing disco. It's just a different body memory, right? I also have some of my Native American friends who dance hip hop looking like they're at the powwow. And I'm like, oh, that's a Native guy doing hip hop. And it's a different kind of a rhythm to it. Well, that's because a lot of times we are that way. We get kind of like a muscle memory about something, or we get kind of a way that we're inclined to go about something. And it just becomes a natural part of what we are. But the thing is that we have to remember that those things, of course, don't define us. What really defines us is who are we really. Who we are really is this flow of infinite spirit. There is a divine source in the universe, a universal spirit. And that universal spirit, everything that lives, everything that's animated, everything that has energy is connected to and part of that universal spirit. And there is no such thing as anything being connected from that spirit. And so the more we know about who we are as this infinite connection with spirit, the more we know about, we know more about God, the more we know about ourselves. And so then Holmes talks about, you know, Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, talks about the only limit to our good is our willingness, our ability to accept it. How much do we believe we can receive? Well, we often have these beliefs about the limitation of what we can receive, right? So, you know, when I step onto this stage, I see myself like leaving a shell, you know, behind of my ego and my thoughts and my day and like whatever happened. But let me tell you, it was a hard day to be watching the news, right? It was just a tough day to be watching the news. And I see a lot of things that I care about, like being eroded. Like, no, what? No. And I'm like having like massive reaction to, you gotta be kidding me, right? The pipeline, you know? And I'm in this reaction space because my history as a human being is somebody that cares very much about this. So in my younger years, I was all about fight powers that be. You know, I had the big Africa thing around my neck. I was wearing daishikis, and I was trying to go dreadlocks, which is really weird because I'm half Native. My hair just isn't cool enough to do that. But you know, that's what I was trying. Like that was my expression. And now that I see a lot of things that I care about, and there's like a lot of like not that I want to see occur, I'm having to go into my spiritual expression of myself, and I have to remember some fundamental truths. Spirit is behind all that is. I cannot be separated from spirit, and spirit cannot be separated from me. So deepening my understanding, my conversation with spirit, what am I saying that spirit is? So I had this conversation with Ram and Martha before we talked today, and she was reminding me that we are the guardians of consciousness, that we are holding high watch for the world right now, that we are the space of, you know, as you believe, you receive. So what am I believing about the world? What am I willing to believe about my power to make a difference in it simply with who I'm being? You know, I often talked about, you know, myself being an emanation of the divine coming from within me, and the divine being all around me, flowing in through around me. what is the clog that stops me from being that flow? And what's the Drano, right? So if I'm a vessel and flow of the divine, I have it in me and it's flowing and I'm constantly in this flow of spirit. What is it with me that has me block that flow of spirit? Well, it's exactly what I experienced today. I'm reading the news and I am in reaction mode. I'm reading, this doesn't look right, this isn't going to work, and this whole thing, you know, the experience I had was all this stuff is happening, and I'm sitting here reading about it in the news, I'm not doing anything to stop it, right? But the truth of the matter is, spirit is infinite. Spirit is everything, in everyone. So when we start thinking about what am I willing to believe, I have to examine my willingness to accept the power of God in me. Now, some people say that we take on these human bodies as a way to express or to experience limitation in our spirit. But that is an illusion. The illusion that we're in these bodies and in these experiences for limitation is actually the opposite, is incorrect. The opposite is true. We're in these forms and these bodies so that we can experience what it's like when we bust out of what we thought were limitations. We're here for the experience. We're here for the experience of expanding and growing. We have our soul being developed in these set of circumstances. There's no point to any of these circumstances except that they are brought to us so that we can grow. There isn't a circumstance that we face that we are not up to the challenge of meeting. Every single thing that has come up for us, we are capable of meeting it. The thing is that we constantly have to remember what it is, who it is that we are. We are the embodiment of atonement at one with the divine. We are one. There is no force whatsoever that can separate us from this infinite source of goodness, of love, of prosperity, of joy, of partnership. There's no force on the planet that can separate us from that. The only thing that can separate us from that is our belief in it, is our belief in the separation. You know, when we are young, we develop our egos, right? We have this belief in separation. Something happens to us and we make up that in order to be safe, I'm going to act this way. In order to be safe, I'm never going to open my heart out and love again, so I'll never be hurt again. I'm never going to really truly trust anyone because I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be hurt. So I build these walls and these castle moats and, you know, fissures and everything around me so that I'm safe. And we do this to ourselves and we limit our impact to the world and we limit our access to the world and we limit our ability to reconnect with other people in a meaningful way because we have these, not boundaries, but these barriers between us and other people, between us and even our own access to ourselves. And when we do that, when we make these things up about ourselves, our ego is having a conversation about separation. Our ego is saying, you can be hurt. Girl, don't go there. Don't let them go there. Don't let them do that to you. You gonna let them talk to you that way? Oh no, And all your stuff comes up. No, this is how I'm talking from experience, right? You know, I became an expert in building, you ever seen Get Smart in the movie, the show from the 60s? And he would walk in and all these doors and bars and all this stuff would come up and then he'd get into a phone booth and go down some more. Sometimes that's what access to our heart is like. Is that, and not only access to our heart and access to our ability to be with other people, but access to our willingness to express our own power. What if I actually believed that I had unlimited prosperity? What if I actually believed that I could have any relationship that was meaningful and heartwarming? What if I actually believed that I could have you know, the job of my dreams or the income of my dreams or live my talent and have it sustain me? What if I actually believe that and it didn't happen? And so because we're afraid, our egos are these conversations about being afraid. When we start to rely on the truth about what and who Spirit is inside of us, it starts to be the Drano that unclogs that drain. It starts to be that thing that has the flow of Spirit flow in and through us in a way that we've never experienced before. You know, a lot of times people engage in things like, you know, talk therapy and, you know, long drawn out, you know, I've got to go through 5,000 workshops and I've got to do all of this stuff so that I can be healed or fixed or changed or transformed. When in actuality, who we are already, like at our core, is someone who is whole right now, who is complete right now, who is the ultimate expression of God's joy right now. And so all it requires is for us in one moment to be with that power, to be with that truth, to be with that knowing. And forget for just one moment that there is anything other than that. And it only takes a thought or a decision or a choice in this moment right now. In this moment right now, I choose that I am extraordinary. One of the things that I've taken on is when I was growing up, people used to say, oh, she thinks she's all that. She thinks she's so cute. So I grew up training myself to go, oh no, I'm not. I'm humble. I don't think I'm cute. I don't think I'm smart. And, you know, I'm just okay. Because I thought that's what people wanted me to act like. But now that, you know, I'm turning 50 this year, I've decided to become an outright brat. And I've decided that I'm cute as heck. And I decided I'm smart as I want to be. And I've decided that, you know what I decided? I decided that God loves me like I'm God's favorite child. Have you ever had the experience of just being so in love with something or someone, and it just gives you so much joy to give them something and see them be happy to receive it? That's how me and God has it, right? Spirit can't wait to see me jumping for joy, right? Spirit is like, I can't wait to see her going, yes, I got the gig, or yes, that was great, or yes, that felt good, right? Because I'm willing to accept that Spirit loves me. And just as Spirit loves me, because I am one with that, I love me unapologetically. And I don't care, right? Well, here's the deal. When we love us like that, what that means is that we expand our ability to accept. We expand because I'm giving to me, because Spirit in me is giving to me the keys to the kingdom. And what the keys to the kingdom looks like for every single person is different. What the keys to the kingdom looks like for me may be different from you. And see, because we are not separate, just because we think we're separate doesn't mean we are. But we're all only having our own experience. It's as if all of us went to the movies. We're all sitting here. We're all munching on our popcorn. You know, the lights go down. There's the flickering lights. And each of us is watching a movie. But the difference is, when you go to the movie theater down the street, you're all looking at the same movie. But when, in reality, we are all looking at our own movie. Because whatever I'm experiencing is what I'm projecting, is what I believe about myself. And so it becomes very important to look at, what do I believe about myself? And so when you look out at the world, and that person is on your nerves again, they are doing it again. Just like the last person, that person did such and such and such, and the other person did such and such and such, right? And you're like, why do I always attract people to do this and this and that? right? So why is it? If there's no separation and everything that's occurring is a mirror, why am I drawing that character to my life? And if you notice, that character becomes a recurring character in our lives. Why? Because there's something for us to learn. Now, a lot of times people say, oh, we'll learn and heal, blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? My experience is that that means forgiving. Forgiving, 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 forgiving. You know, Peter asked Jesus, how many times do you forgive? 7 times? And Jesus said, no, 70 times 7. Sometimes I see myself making the same mistakes or the same patterns, and every time I do it, I have to forgive myself again. I have to forgive myself 70 times 7. I have to forgive myself for being willing to draw that recurring character. I have to forgive myself for getting mad about it again. And then knowing but when we know that, we build a place of compassion in ourselves. And it becomes a place of compassion for other people. Because we're never really having an experience with someone else. I'm not having an experience with Donald Trump. I'm having an experience with Tammi Lambert, who's dealing with her issues with regard to powerlessness and fear and justice and my ability to take on that I can make a difference in the world. That's the soul experience. And when I'm willing to forgive in here, and when I'm willing to have compassion in here, when I'm willing to allow Spirit to unmanifest itself from me in a wild and huge way, when I'm able to do that, then the lesson changes. The scene changes. The characters change. The talk changes. You know, I was remembering there was a time when my daughter was born. And I was a single parent. I was a welfare mother. And I lived in the war zone. And I took a semester off of school. And everyone was like, oh, that's who she is. People looked at me and saw black welfare mother. And was very clear about telling me that on a regular basis. But my mind at that particular time was that I'm going to be a lawyer. And this is just for a few months. And I refuse, like I literally refuse to allow my mind to cast myself as someone's racist typecast stereotype. Because I had this place in me, and I don't know where it came from, where I knew this was not the truth about me. This is what it looks like right now, but this is not the definition of who I am. And it was one of the most powerful times in my life. It was one of the most faith-filled times in my life. You know, after I paid my rent, I had $12 a month to buy diapers and shampoo and toothpaste and all of that. And somehow, you know, my daughter's 22 now. She's finishing her last year at UNM. And I'm a lawyer and I'm a judge and, you know, it worked out. But it's so much easier when we go through these experiences, when we're responsible for what we think about ourselves and what we make it mean, right? So we could be dealing with any set of circumstances, and how we think of ourselves and how we create ourselves in that experience is the experience. It's not necessarily what happened. It's what you do with it. You know, one of the most powerful experiences I had when I was, I used to be a policy advisor for Governor Richardson for crime victim rights issues. That's part of his public safety team. And we would go out and talk to people who were victims of crime. And there was this one man who, his son had been brutally murdered by the defendant. And he had the ability to give a victim impact statement. And he did. And everyone was expecting him to say, you know, off with their head, you know. And he looked at the offender and said, I forgive you. I absolutely forgive you. I don't know what you're going through that had you do this. But I don't know what it is, but it must be horrible for you. And I forgive you. And I refuse to allow anyone in my family to say anything against you. I mean, you know, not a dry eye in the place, right? And he didn't just say that at that time. He carried it out through the man's parole hearings, through his, he had other time to serve. What he did was he shifted he created it as a space of power to where the whole state started talking about, how do we start talking about reparations and restitution and restorative justice instead of just punishing people that have fallen, have missed the mark. Because even in the most dire circumstances, we have the ability to transform any circumstance, any situation, if only we're willing to take that step, if only we're willing to change our minds. There isn't a place or a time or a circumstance on this planet that is bigger than God in us. There just isn't. And often we will look at, if I can just change something, I want to take to the streets and, riot and, turn over cars or something. None of that's going to help. What's really going to help is for me to undertake the transformation of my heart first. To undertake the transformation of my mind. To undertake the willingness to see, to accept that step by step, that I may be in this bubble of consciousness now, but my goal in this life is to continue to expand, 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 until I completely pop the bubble of limitation, to where I know that God inside of me, if God be for me, who can be against me? When I know that that power of that divine power within me is absolutely greater than the physicality of what I think is real. The physicality of what I think my finances are. The physicality of, has the love of my life shown up? The physicality of where's the next job, or where's the promotion, or the realities that we live in. They're just a forum for us to learn in. And as we grow and expand and learn, we'll find that we are truly limitless. And it stops being an idea we talk about, and it starts being something we take into practice in a way that we never thought possible. We begin to expand not just our consciousness, but as we transform, the energy of our consciousness ripples to those around us. And we become these guardians, these beacons of light that cause transformation just because you walked in the room. People who've heard me often have heard me say, it's as if Christ's consciousness, as if Jesus Christ himself walked into this room and there was transformation. It's like when God said, let there be light, and there was light. As somebody who is a guardian of consciousness, I say, let there be peace, and there's peace. I say, let the environment be healed, and it's healed. I say, let every child have a home and have food, and that happens. Because I said, and it's not me, the ego, that says it. It's me as God channeling through me to create something on this planet that is to be here. And the only reason why anything that looks like not that appears is because I am to develop, I am to grow, I am to expand my consciousness so that that is what is so. There's no other reason for anything to appear other than it is a training curriculum. And I plan to pass this class. I plan to pass this class. I plan to be the professor, and then I'm going to write the curriculum myself, because what we are here for is to express this divine joy. Because what gives God pleasure? When I express God's joy. And then there is every situation that arises, we can dance in it. We are responsible for what we think. We are responsible for what we make it mean. We are responsible for what that makes us do. And I choose joy. I choose healing right now. I choose expansion of consciousness. I choose to dance in that rhythm so that my body rhythms, even if they're still dancing African dance, I'm going to do African dance in every area of my life. I'm going to do African dance around my finances. I'm going to do African dance in my job. I'm going to do African dance here in the center. I'm going to live that joy. And whatever the circumstances are, they are. But they cannot hold a candle to the light of God in me. You know, there's a saying in the old Vedas that the glory of God is so bright that it makes the sun seem as a mere candle. And so the glory of God within me is so bright. The glory of God within you is so phenomenal that any circumstance that seems so insurmountable becomes dimmed like a candle and flickers out. Because in the light of God, there can be nothing else.